Um, so obviously the big topic of the week in the world has been political violence. You've probably heard a lot about it in the past few days for various reasons. It's going on all over the place. Nepal, France, Congo, Sudan, Palestine, the United States. It's people have been saying it's on the rise. I don't think that's true. I think it's roughly equivalent to how it's always been. The real difference is that now it's happening to a different group of people. It is happening to people who have not experienced any backlash to anything they have said or done in a very long time, maybe ever. And so it feels to those people like it is just beginning, that it was never here before. Now it's starting. You have heard people over the past few days declare that political violence is wrong and must never happen. These very same people have been actively supporting genocide in the world. Not only supporting it vocally, but funding it with their own nation's money. And then they will turn around and decry political violence when it happens toward them and their guys. I did not come to tell you that political violence is good, however. That would be irresponsible of me. I also didn't come here to warn anybody or even to moralize. I am not here to moralize. I have an argument against political violence that I get from the story of our king, from the story of Peter. But it has nothing to do with moralism. No moralist element to the argument whatsoever. It is entirely a material argument. It is not about what is right or wrong. You've heard many people argue that you should be for open debate and free speech, and we need to treat people with different opinions with respect. Blah blah blah. These people are Nazis. You don't need to hold dialogue with Nazis. I would never tell anybody that they should. I don't think they should be engaged with at all, frankly. Just on a practical level. Because they exploit that goodwill in order to bring things into the realm of discourse that frankly don't belong there. I don't think we should be sitting around arguing about whether or not minorities should have rights with people who think that they shouldn't. I think that's a waste of time. I don't think these people should be engaged with at all. But back to the main argument. Peter demonstrated why this is the case a long time ago. Throughout his whole life, but it begins at the beginning of his life in Civ. See, back in the days of 2.0, there was a group known as the World Police. The World Police held, essentially, a monopoly on military force throughout the world. They were by far the biggest, the strongest fighting power, and as such, they took it upon themselves to be the law, more or less, to engage in active justice against those that they have deemed to be criminals or undesirables. And sometimes that was good, and sometimes that was bad. One of the times that didn't work out so well was when the World Police crossed paths with Peter. Now, around this time, the World Police were trying to do a rebranding. They were trying to step back from the mantle of World Police and become something else, something that they called the LADS. I'm trying to remember what the acronym is for. The Legally Authorized Defense System, or something. I think it was system. Anyway, the point is, they became defense contractors, not self-appointed law enforcers of the world. but rather their own group with their own city called Duck City, interested in upholding their own values in their own land. And the intent was to no longer be responsible for maintaining justice and order across the world. They did not feel that it was worth doing, either because it was too much work, or because they weren't getting enough respect from people for it, or they were getting too much disrespect from people for it. For whatever reason, they didn't want to do that anymore, and they rebranded to the Lads so that they could focus on their own affairs and still offer protection to people if they pay. Now, this incentive structure obviously didn't lead to a good place. What it led to was the very same people who were members of the Lads would go on their alt accounts, because back in 2.0 you could have alt accounts. They would create the very problem that they set out to solve, and then they would solve it for money, or not at all. This put them effectively above the law. It gave them the ability to do anything they wanted to anyone else, like a mafia, really, and then turn around and do a shakedown. Hey, we'll deal with these problem people for you. Of course, they are the problem people, if you just give us some money. So the world police behavior never went away, and in fact it got worse. But eventually they crossed paths with our king. They crossed paths with Peter, and they didn't like him, and he didn't like them either. Now, Peter, on his own, was not able to meaningfully oppose the Lads. Like I said, they had a near monopoly on force. If at any point you tried to hold one of their members accountable for their crimes, the rest of them would come and break that person out. There was no way to enforce the law on these people. Peter did his best. He went out of his way to try to oppose them. He went underground, and he allied himself with the most notorious raider group in the history of Civ, HCF. Recently, there has been a faction in CivMC that named themselves after them, the HCF, except they went with Holy Caracal Federation. So a nice little joke. But that shows you how infamous that group was. That name HCF still resonates through the era. The era is just like the name World Police. These are historical archetypes that arise over and over under different names. We deal with the same problem today on a different level, although nobody currently calls themselves the World Police. Peter tried to use force to take down the monopoly on force. He tried, as a single individual, to use his influence and his strength and his connections, his wealth, all that he had, to oppose the Lads, because he saw them harassing and terrorizing innocent players in cities, and then turning around like a mafia, demanding protection payment from themselves. Peter would not stand for this. It was unjust. He saw this and was not willing to put up with it. As a Scottish man, he was stubborn and unwilling to deal with bullshit. So he brought the bullshit of his own. And he, along with the HCF, led a campaign against Lads and tried to destroy them. He understood PR. He wanted to use PR against them. But he couldn't control all of the raiders in the HCF. Some of them still wanted to go out and commit crimes. And each time that happened, it gave justification for the Lads to continue hunting down the HCF, which was their goal all along. They kept that one. Now, here's the part that's relevant to our current situation in the real world. Peter's life consists of two halves. One half occurred in the 2.0 era, the second in the classic era. They are the same story. The only difference is the choice that Peter makes in how to oppose it. In 2.0, he tried to oppose fire with fire. He tried to use force, he tried to use violence. It didn't work. All it did was invite more terrorism from those with the monopoly of power. In the classic era, he made a different choice. He decided not to engage militarily at all, and in fact to turn around and become a pillar of his own community. He decided that instead of feeding the trolls, feeding the rage baiters, he would feed his people. He built farms, and he gave them to us, and he said, go and eat. He didn't at first. At first it was, he had private farms, and people used them because they were right in the city, and huge, and he wasn't fully using them. And he stopped people a few times, but eventually he stopped bothering because people kept going on his farmland. But eventually he decided to open it to everyone in the city. Must not have been easy for him. He was a rich mogul of a kind. He had a lot of property, but he gave it all to us. He gave it to us, selflessly, and he became the foundation of the community. So when that day's equivalent to the lads came along to kill him, it only incited the whole world against them. When they came to slay the naked king, although he was not yet crowned, people already knew he was king. They already thought of him as king. Hell, they thought about him as king all the way back in 2.0. Even the lads saw him as the king. The very people who opposed him. And it's because he did this. He lived for his people. He lived for his community. He gave everything he had to his community. In 2.0, he isolated himself from the community in order to protect them, while he wages war against the lads, who posed a threat to the community. This did not work. What did work was becoming the foundation, such that when he was removed, the whole world turned against his captives. It became more than a sectarian conflict. It became more than a proxy war of Yaltland and Lexington. It became a moral war. It became very, very clear what was right to do, and it got everyone on board. When he fought along HCF, that confused people. That turned people against him, against justice for the lads, against, it confused things. It only got a bunch of people confused, or even worse, reactionary against him. And many people sided with the lads because their arguments were given weight. Because the thing that they had been warning everybody about was now happening. See, Peter is involved with the lads. They were accusing him of this long before he had anything to do with the lads. But they eventually pushed him to do just that, because they gave him no choice. But he did have a choice. Unfortunately, the other choice was totally self-sacrificial. It's too much to ask of anybody. And yet it's what must be done. Not for a moral reason, not because violence is wrong, but because it doesn't work. It only gives more ammo to those with a monopoly of force. When a single person kills another person on some notion of collective or societal justice, it only fuels evil. it does not solve the problem. It makes the problem worse. It allows perpetrators to identify as victims and therefore become all the more dangerous. When they found out that Peter was working with the HCF, they immediately went and destroyed the city of Commonwealth. They burned down trees, they filled the streets with lava, they filled the city with snitches, turning it into a police state under the lads' occupation. It brought hell upon the city, when it was meant to do the opposite. But when he refused to do that, when he refused to become what they were in order to oppose them, and they still came to kill him. Make no mistake, it didn't save his life. They still came to kill him. But when they did, he became more powerful than they could have ever imagined. He became something eternal and undying. To this day, he is the foundation of our world because of what he did. He was identified immediately by everyone as the king for all time. This was born from history. What we learn from this is that rather than engaging with rage baiters, and that is what they are, rage baiters, professional rage baiters, they wanted the fight. See, Peter chose to feed his people, and Queen Sindralen chose to feed her people. The only difference is Peter's people subsisted on a nutritious diet of wheat, carrots, and melons. But the people of Lexington subsisted on a diet of war. They were a nation of PvPers. They were not interested in world building or culture building or politics. They were interested in killing and violence and war games. And their queen obliged and decided to feed them. Decided to feed us to them. But we refused to be eaten. We refused to have the game taken away from us by people who wanted the game to be what they wanted it to be. Who wanted the game to be just war games. We weren't interested in that. And that infuriated Lexington to the point where they unpromptedly killed an upstanding member of the community who did nothing to harm them, and in fact gave them gifts. They did so out of insecurity, out of their own position. See, he never posed any threat to them. None of us did. The queen just wanted to feed her people with conflict. And that is also true of a number of forces in the world, which I think we could say are all analogous. I think we could say that there are various states in the world, various governments, various ideologies, which are essentially the same. Rage bait. Pure and simple rage bait. Calling for violence against it only emboldens it. What you must do is turn away from it and build a new community, separate from it. Dare them to come in and try to take it from you. They will only make their doom certain. That is what they did when they went after the naked king. The fact that our king is naked is important. It is insecurity that leads to this rage-baiting ideology. Insecurity is what causes the defensiveness that leads to people putting up walls around themselves to keep separate from the rest of the world. That's what lads tried to. This insecurity leads to every kind of violence we see in the world. It is the root of the genocide in Palestine. It is the root of the oppression of American citizens by their government. It is the root of everything that piece of shit said before he was killed. Again, not saying that he should have been killed. I'm just saying he was a piece of shit. And he was also a professional rage baiter. They're all professional rage baiters. If you play their game, you feed them. The way to beat them is to play a new game. Play a game that they desperately wish they could take part in, and they know they can't. Because they know they're not welcome. That's where the insecurity comes from. You need to build a parallel world that is not owned by these war eaters. And you have to dare them to step inside and be something else. They will probably fail, but there is no need to fight them on it. It is up to them whether they choose to live or to imprison themselves. Peter's nakedness is his security. His lack of armor, his lack of defense when he was killed, is the parallel to an old world religion called Christianity. There's a character in those books named Peter. What did Peter do? He tried to use the sword to defend his king. Peter tried to use the sword to defend his king. And it didn't work. Not only did it not work, but the king himself said, "No, don't do this." And he healed the ear of the legionary, which was cut off by Peter's blade. And then the king went to his death willingly. And by that willing death, Rome was conquered. This is objective historical truth. Christianity conquered Rome because a man voluntarily went to death. Peter first acted as the biblical Peter, slicing the ear off the legionnaire. The lads are the legionnaire. He tried to do this to protect his king, but it only brought more death, more destruction, more violence, more war. In the second part of his life, when he took the opposite approach, when he decided not to fight back, but to turn around and feed his people, then when they came for him, it was all over for Lexington. They completely destroyed their PR. They could never walk it back. They could never win back the favor of the world. It went from being a small proxy war between Yaltland and Lexington, using the land of Commonwealth. It went from this little territorial dispute between a couple of nations. It went from that to being a conflict that everyone was on the same side of. Everyone knew what was right and what was wrong from that moment onward. And it was purely because of the choices that Peter made. We must learn from this. Not because it is right, but because it's effective. It's simply more effective as a way to oppose monsters. Build a world without them. A world that they can't take from you. And when they try to come for it, they will have hell to pay. Lock your doors, and you will be broken into. But leave your doors open, and you will be a fortress. The best defense against these people, these monsters, the best defense against them is beauty. The best defense against them is community. It's life that's worth living. It's family. It's love. It's compassion. It's empathy. Nothing can stand in the way of these things. Nothing can oppose them. To oppose them is to make them stronger. We build the foundation of a new community together that has remained stunningly untouched by the monsters of the world. And I think that's because it is too beautiful to oppose. There's simply too much to it. It would not be good to remove it from the world. It adds value to the world. If you were to remove such a beautiful thing from the world, it would only turn the world against you. Security is good. It's good to have contingency plans and defense strategies. All these things are good. But judicious vengeance, though it feels good at the time, is simply not effective. It's just not the best way to oppose it. Peter showed us the best way to oppose it. And I think many of you have showed that as well. We have built a community here that I think reflects the values and the lessons we were given by our king many years ago. We have built something, and we are building something truly beautiful. Much of it unreinforced. I don't know if you noticed. And yet the things in the city that are unreinforced are reinforced, not by iron or diamond or stone, but by meaning and beauty and significance. It is a crime to destroy a monument or a landmark. It is a crime to destroy beauty from the face of the earth. It is not a written crime. It is written on our hearts. We feel the injustice of the destruction of beauty. And we feel the ugliness. We see the ugliness of the obsidian walls and the bunkers and the PvP mods and all of the stuff that we need to participate in for security. We see the ugliness of all that. We see how none of that is really what we want to do. We do that in order to protect the things we really do want to do. Peter lamented the fall of the city of Westminster because we were doing exactly the things that Civ was all about in that city before Lexington came wanting to play their game. And they did for a time, but they lost for this one simple reason. They destroyed something beautiful. But they didn't destroy it, did they? They made it even more beautiful. Peter was already a saint, but they made him a king. That is the legacy upon which we build, not just in this world, but in the primary world as well. We build beautiful things. No one can take them away from us. Even the loss of such a thing becomes more meaningful than anything, more powerful than any sword. A force that exists purely to perpetuate its own existence has no heart, has no meaning. It has no time to accumulate meaning. It only has time to kill. Use that time to build and prepare. Because if it does come, it will be very sorry it did. And no assassinations need to be made in that process. In fact, an assassination being made in that process would ruin the process. It would get in the way of the real process, which is changing the world from one kind of game to another kind of game. A game that a few people want to play to a game that everyone wants to play. We can do this in Civ and in the world. And it begins with community and art and beauty and family and love. And we may have gotten cynical about that for a few years, but I think it's time to take that here seriously again. Because we've seen how powerful it is. We've seen that it is the most powerful thing. The most lasting thing. The king had outlived kingdoms and worlds. Because the meaning, the significance are so immense. No fighting force can stand against it. No Rome can oppose this king. And so, in conclusion, I don't think that the answer is to say that on principle we must hold communion with monsters out of principle, out of some sense of morality. That would be playing the game. Bad actors exist, and we can't ignore this fact. But the way to deal with them is not to kill them, but to build something else. To build a new world that they have no place in. And if they try to enter, they will be trapped in it. Just like our city, just like our Cerberus system is meant to do. We keep our doors open, and we close them when a law has been violated. The naked king does not cover himself because he is not insecure. We are the same. We invite in, but that doesn't mean that we just accept whatever happens to us. It means that we oppose it through this invitation. And that may say, oh, look out, zombie coming, right behind you. There you go. Nice. Well done. I don't have a neat conclusion, but I think I've pretty much said what I wanted to say. Any questions?